They say one wrong step can ruin a service. I learned a single post can ruin a life. I unlocked the brass-trimmed doors of Maison Leora at 6 a.m., the city still rubbing sleep from its eyes. 4 stars on the window. My name on the kitchen wall. I'm Olivia Lockhart, 35, single mom, head chef, daughter of a fisherman who taught me to read tides before recipes. Autumn menu day is my holy day: pumpkins with smoke, scallops with citrus ash, the seafood risotto that made reservations impossible for months. Then the text started. Line cook out with a fever. Another stuck on the train. Pastries babysitter canceled. We shuffled stations like a street hustle. You've got this, I told Daniel, my best friend and sous chef, the steady metronome to my heartbeat. But the tickets were already whispering from the printer, and prep was a cliff. At 5:30, I broke my own rule. I handed the risotto to a junior, neat-handed but green. Follow the spec. Taste every step, I said, pretending not to see his fingers tremble. I told myself I'd watch from the pass. Finish with a shine of lemon oil, a drift of sea fennel. I told myself a lot of things. That night, the dining room filled with low laughter and candlelight. Somewhere in the room, incognito, sat Max Bites the reviewer with 3.5 million followers and a tongue sharp as a fillet knife. I didn't know he was there. He didn't ask for a tour, didn't peek into the kitchen, didn't meet my eyes. He ordered, ate, and vanished like steam from a stock pot. Service ended. We scrubbed steel until it mirrored our tired faces. I tucked Mia into bed over FaceTime, 8 years old, front tooth missing, cheering me on with a stuffed dolphin held to the camera. Then my phone buzzed again. Daniel's message, "Don't look at X," which meant look now. Max had posted a thread photos. Snark. The verdict stamped in. Bold. A disaster in a bowl. My bowl. My name. My life. In the quiet. The kitchen felt smaller. The awards on the wall suddenly flimsy, like foil crowns after a parade. I stared at the screen, hands cold, tasting salt and shame and something burning under both. How could one post from a stranger turn my entire career upside down by morning? The post had spread like grease fire on a hot range. I walked into the kitchen, still carrying the weight of Max Bites' words from the night before, thinking maybe the internet would have moved on. But Daniel was waiting by the prep table, arms folded, his phone screen glowing. "Liv," he said, voice low, "you need to see this." The headline image was my risotto flat lighting, unflattering angle circling X with a flood of captions. Disaster in a bowl had become the hook for an endless parade of memes, chefs tossing rice into trash cans, cartoon fish diving into toilets, hashtags stacked under my name like accusations. I hadn't even met this man, hadn't looked him in the eye, and yet he'd branded me to millions as the chef who couldn't cook. It was a strange kind of humiliation public. But with no chance to defend myself, I'd built my career on precision, on the belief that good food speaks for itself. Now, a stranger's bite and a few words had shouted me down. Daniel slid his phone closer. "You don't have an account. Right, that's mistake number 1. He guided me through setting one up: profile pic, bio, the basics. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, torn between silence and rage, but the knot in my chest wouldn't loosen. So I wrote, "Max Bites." I typed, "You've tasted a dish that wasn't mine. I challenge you to come back and try 10 original plates from my own hands. Then tell the world what you really think." Daniel read over my shoulder. "You're actually posting that already did." My thumb had pressed send before my brain caught up. Within minutes, notifications poured in: retweets, comments, gifs of chefs wielding knives like swords. Some cheered me on, others laughed at the idea. But then, Amid the noise, a reply appeared from the man himself. "See you next Friday." Impress me. The words lit something sharp inside me, half relief, half dread. This was my shot to take back the narrative or watch it bury me for good. By dawn, my phone was a machine gun of notifications, pings, buzzes, vibrations that shook the nightstand until Mia wandered in, rubbing her eyes. "Mom, is your phone sick?" she mumbled. The post had detonated overnight. Thousands of retweets, strangers tagging friends, foodies debating what I might serve. A few chefs I admired even chimed in, saying they'd pay to watch the showdown. My stomach twisted as I scrolled. This wasn't just noise anymore. People were expecting a fight. Then, in the middle of the chaos, his reply landed. "See you next Friday." Impress me. I read it twice. Then again, as if the words might change. Excitement flared first, finally. The chance to prove myself, but it burned against something heavier. Fear. This could be the redemption arc or the final chapter of my career. The buzz didn't fade by the time I walked into Maison Leora. Daniel gave me a half smile over the cutting board, but the rest of the staff avoided eye contact. I'd barely tied my apron when the maitre d' poked her head in. "Mr. Vance wants you." Now, the owner's office always smelled faintly of leather and money. Mr. Vance sat behind his desk, fingers steepled, the kind of smile that wasn't friendly so much as cautious. "Olivia," he began, "this little challenge of yours has put us under a microscope. We can't afford a stunt." "It's not a stunt," I said. "It's my food, my name." He leaned forward. "Next Friday, you'll serve Max Bites the standard menu, the classics, the ones we know he can't destroy online. No experiments, no creative interpretations." My pulse pounded in my ears. If all I ever did was play it safe, I'd still be chopping onions in the back of a hotel kitchen. I didn't become a chef to cook on autopilot. His jaw tightened. "You're putting the brand at risk." I stood, the chair legs scraping against the floor. "The brand is me. And if you don't trust me to do my job, then maybe the problem isn't the menu." I walked out before he could answer, the decision sitting heavy but certain in my chest. Next Friday, I'd serve Max exactly what I wanted, no matter the cost. Friday morning smelled of espresso and tension. The kitchen was unusually quiet, no joking over the prep table, no humming from the dish pit. Even Daniel kept his head down, slicing shallots with surgical precision. Everyone knew what today meant. I arrived early, setting my knives on the counter like soldiers ready for battle. The ingredients for my 10 dishes were lined up in the walk-in, each component prepped down to the last chiffonade of basil. I'd rehearsed every plate in my head all night. Sleep impossible. At 8 sharp, Mr. Vance strode in, polished shoes clicking against the tile. He didn't bother with a good morning. "We're serving him the classics," he said, loud enough for the entire brigade to hear. I wiped my hands on my apron. "We've been over this. I'm not letting some stranger on the internet dictate what I can create in my own kitchen." His eyes narrowed. "This isn't about your creativity, Olivia. It's about our survival. We can't risk our brand for your pride." My pride, I stepped forward, feeling the heat crawl up my neck. "This menu is the brand. You hired me to innovate, to put Maison Leora on the map. If I roll out the same safe dishes, I've already lost whether Max likes them or not." He glanced around the kitchen, perhaps realizing he was losing the audience. Then his voice hardened. "You're done here." The words landed like a cleaver through bone. For a moment, I just stood there, the hum of the refrigerators filling the silence. Daniel froze mid-slice, his knife still in the shallot. I untied my apron, folding it with deliberate care. My hands didn't shake until I reached for my knife roll, the one thing in this place that was truly Mine. No one spoke as I walked out. The air outside was crisp, the kind that hinted at the first turn of autumn. Somewhere behind me, the kitchen roared back to life, but I didn't look back. I had no idea that Max's visit, without me there, was about to unfold in a way neither of us had imagined. By mid-afternoon, the city was humming with its usual Friday rhythm, but my apartment felt like it was holding its breath. I kept glancing at the clock, picturing the scene unfolding at Maison Leora without me. Somewhere across town, Max Bites was taking his seat, likely expecting my chef's 10 challenge the plates I'd dreamed up, balanced and bold, each telling its own story. Instead, I knew exactly what would be said in front of him, the bland parade of safe classics Mr. Vance had ordered. Daniel had texted me once that morning, "Kitchen's tense. Wish you were here." After that, silence. Around 6, my phone buzzed, a notification from X. My name. Trending again, only this time. It wasn't applause. Max had posted a new thread. The first photo was a limp plate of pasta, sauce pooling at the edges. The caption, "All talk, no talent." The next few posts dripped with sarcasm, each one twisting the knife. The comment section was a feeding frenzy. Strangers I'd never met were dissecting my work ethic, my competence, my character. They didn't know I hadn't cooked a single bite of what he'd eaten. I sat there, reading until the words blurred. My stomach felt like it was made of wet paper, collapsing in on itself. I could have typed a response, explained everything, but the idea of shouting into that digital mob made my fingers heavy. The apartment was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator. I found myself in the kitchen, lights off, leaning against the counter. The knives in their block caught what little light came through the window, their edges glinting faintly. Useless tonight. Mom, I turned. Mia stood barefoot in the doorway, her hair tangled from playing, holding her stuffed dolphin against her chest. She took in the unlit room, the untouched dinner on the stove. Without a word, she crossed to me, her small hand finding mine. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The silence said enough. Mia didn't let go of my hand. She climbed onto my lap, curling into me like she used to when she was little and the world felt too big. Her voice was soft but certain. "If they don't let you cook there, let's make our own place." I gave a tired laugh, brushing her hair back. And where would we do that? The living room. She shook her head, eyes brightening. The van. Grandpa's old van. We can park somewhere, and you can make your food. The real food. People will come. I pictured it, the faded blue family van that had been sitting in my building's garage for years. More storage than transportation. The idea was wild, impractical. And yet, in Mia's voice, it didn't sound impossible. The next afternoon, Daniel showed up without calling, carrying a paper bag of croissants and a bottle of wine. He didn't waste time with small talk. "I saw the thread," he said, setting the bag on the counter. "You got a raw deal. Live. Comes with the territory?" "Right," I muttered, but my heart wasn't in it. He leaned against the counter. "Not like this. I've been thinking. I'm done over there. The place isn't the same without you. If you're ready to start fresh, I'm in." I blinked at him. "Daniel, you can't just, I can." He cut in. "And I will. We take that van of yours, turn it into a kitchen on wheels, and you cook whatever you want. No owners breathing down your neck. No watered-down menus." Mia practically bounced in her seat, nodding like it was already decided. "See, I told you it could work." Their faith hit me harder than the criticism ever could. In that moment, between Mia's boundless optimism and Daniel's steady resolve, the weight in my chest shifted. I didn't say yes right away, but I didn't say no either. And for the first time since Max's review, the idea of cooking again didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a beginning, The van looked even worse in daylight. Dust clung to its faded blue paint. A spiderweb stretched across one side mirror, and the inside smelled faintly of motor oil and forgotten summers. But where I saw a relic, Mia saw a blank canvas, armed with buckets, sponges, and a playlist of old pop songs. We started scrubbing. Daniel pulled out the ripped seats in the back, measuring space for a stainless steel counter and a compact stove. I sanded down the cabinets, imagining them filled with spices instead of emergency jumper cables. Mia became our unofficial documentarian. She filmed Daniel balancing awkwardly on a step stool, me nearly dropping a sheet pan on my foot, and even the moment we discovered the fridge still worked after all these years. Her commentary was pure gold sharp, funny, and unfiltered. She posted clips to our new X account, now rebranded as Mia's Table. 2 weeks later, the transformation was complete. The van gleamed with fresh paint, white with a cheerful green stripe, our name stenciled in looping script. The small window on the side opened to a wooden counter Daniel had built by hand. Inside, every inch was optimized for speed burners. Prep space. A cooler packed with fresh produce from the market. On our first day, we parked at the edge of the Saturday farmers market. The autumn air carried the smell of roasting squash and fresh bread from nearby stalls. I set the chalkboard menu outside 10 dishes, each one a burst of flavor I'd never been allowed to serve at Maison Leora. At first, a trickle of customers, curious market-goers lured by the scent of seared scallops and saffron. Then someone recognized me. "You're the fired chef," they said, grinning. Word traveled fast. By noon, we had a line curling around the block. That night, Mia uploaded a compilation of the day-happy customers, sizzling pans, her triumphant, "We sold out," at closing time. By morning, the video had 1 million views. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about Max Bites, Mr. Vance, or the review that started it all. I was thinking about the next day's menu. It was a crisp Thursday afternoon, the kind where the air smells faintly of apples and wood smoke. The market crowd was steady farmers in flannel unloading crates of produce, couples weaving between stalls, kids begging for kettle corn. I was midway through plating a saffron-infused crab cake when a shadow fell across the truck's counter. "Chef's 10, a voice said. I looked up, and there he was. Max Bites in the flesh. No disguise, no hiding behind a screen, just him, hands in his coat pockets, expression neutral as a clean plate. For a beat, I didn't move. Then muscle memory kicked in. "Coming right up," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Daniel shot me a quick glance from the grill. We both knew exactly what this meant. I reached for the ingredients I'd set aside weeks ago, the same 10 dishes I'd planned for that ill-fated night at Maison Leora. Lemon thyme scallops with a whisper of chili oil, risotto laced with sea fennel and charred corn, a pear galette so delicate the crust flaked at the touch of a fork. Max didn't speak as each plate slid across the counter. He ate with the same careful focus I recognized from his posts, slow, deliberate, measuring every bite. The crowd around the truck hushed, phones coming out, the air thick with curiosity. When he finished the last dish, he set his fork down, met my eyes for the briefest moment, and left without a word. That night, I barely slept. At dawn, my phone vibrated with a new notification, Max's latest post. A thread I was wrong. Photo after photo of the 10 dishes, each caption brimming with detail, texture, balance, the kind of language that made food sound like music. His final line stopped me cold. "This woman's food sings. I'd like to help her open her own place." I stared at the screen, coffee cooling in my hand. In one post, he'd flipped the script not just for the world, but for me. For the first time, the future didn't feel like something I had to defend. It felt like something I could build. 2 months later, the for lease sign over the corner storefront came down, and the windows filled with the soft glow of pendant lights. The space smelled of fresh paint, sawdust, and the faint citrus polish Daniel insisted on using for the new oak tables. Mia stood in the middle of the dining room, hands on her hips, surveying it like a tiny general. "This is where my menu goes," she declared, pointing to a chalkboard half her height. Her kids' corner was tucked beside a sunny window, complete with small tables, crayons, and a menu she'd already illustrated herself, stick figures holding plates of spaghetti, smiling pancakes with berry eyes. We called it Mia's Table & Co. The & Co., a nod to everyone who made it possible: Daniel, who'd left a secure job without hesitation; Max, whose investment came with one promise: total creative freedom; and Mia, whose idea had sparked the whole thing. Opening day felt like stepping into a dream. The line formed before we unlocked the doors. Former regulars from Maison Leora showed up with flowers. Farmers from the market brought crates of produce as gifts. Strangers who'd followed our food truck journey online hugged me like we were old friends. In the kitchen, Daniel ran the pass with the calm precision of a conductor. Orders flowed: my saffron crab cakes, roasted beet ravioli with walnut cream, even Mia's mini chef pancakes flying out for brunch, the clang of pans, the low murmur of the dining room, the bursts of laughter. It all blended into the kind of music I hadn't heard since my first years cooking. Between rushes, I'd glance out to see Mia weaving between tables, delivering crayons and telling customers which dish was her favorite today. The restaurant felt alive in a way no polished 4-star ever had. That night, after the last table left and the lights dimmed, I stood in the doorway, the quiet settling around me like a warm coat. This was hours built on risk, stubbornness, and one little voice that refused to let me quit. And for the first time, I felt exactly where I was meant to be. The winter sun slanted through the front windows, pooling gold across the polished tables. Lunch service was in full swing. Daniel calling tickets, plates sliding onto the pass, Mia darting between tables with a stack of kids' menus in her arms. The air buzzed with the low hum of conversation and the comforting clatter of cutlery. That's when I saw him. Mr. Vance stood just inside the doorway, hands clasped behind his back, looking smaller than I remembered. He waited until the rush eased before approaching the counter. "Olivia," he began, his voice careful, as though weighing each word. "Maison Leora hasn't been the same without you. We've lost regulars. Critics have noticed. I let fear cloud my judgment back then. I'm sorry." For a moment, the memory of that morning, the sting of his words, the humiliation of walking out flashed through me, but it didn't hit like it used to. The anger had long since cooled, replaced by something steadier. "I appreciate that," I said, meeting his gaze, "but I'm right where I belong." His eyes flicked around the room at the full tables, the line forming at the door, Mia's laughter ringing from the kids' corner, and I saw the understanding settle in. He nodded once, then left as quietly as he'd arrived. I stepped into the dining room, taking in the scene: customers savoring their meals, Daniel trading jokes with a couple at the counter, Mia crouched beside a little boy showing him how to draw a pancake with strawberry eyes. The sound of forks against plates mingled with bursts of laughter, a music all its own. This was my life now, not the chase for stars or the fear of reviews, but the steady joy of feeding people on my own terms. The review that once threatened to end everything had, in its own twisted way, handed me back my freedom. I watched Mia run across the room, her giggles carrying over the happy din, and thought, what if the very thing that ended your career was the thing that set you free